Good evening and welcome to this guided meditation this evening from, or should I say, for Nottingham Buddhist Centre. We are a few minutes early, a minute or two early, so we'll get started very, very shortly. But whether you're watching this meditation live or whether you're watching it as a recording later on, welcome, and it's good to have you here with me. Nottingham Buddhist Centre has now been closed, if I think my calculations are right, for around about 12 weeks. And during those times, we're glad to say that we've continued to be able to deliver the drop-in meditations, which we regularly do on Tuesdays and Fridays. So Tuesday and Friday lunchtimes, and then Tuesday evenings at 7:30 as well. I think we've learned quite a lot in that time, actually, about the benefits, actually, of delivering our meditations in this way. I mentioned one already, that obviously people don't necessarily have to tune in at the time that we do the meditations, that you can join later on. They will stay on the YouTube channel. But also, we've been having a bit of reflection, a bit of thought about how we deliver these meditations. So do keep looking out on our website and also our YouTube channel, because there will be a few changes. You know, we're learning all the time. So do keep a lookout for future meditations as well. But as I say, glad to say that we've managed to continue those ever since the lockdown began. So evening, Sylvia, thank you for your message. I assume you can hear me loud and clear. If you're not familiar with this, if you're watching this live, then there is a chat function. And if you want to send me a message, if I say something that perhaps you don't understand, or you want a bit more clarification, then that's perfectly fine. So this evening, we're going to be doing a meditation known as the Metta Bhavana. And for those of you who have been to the centre or have followed these meditations online before, it is one of the two main meditations that we do at Nottingham Buddhist Centre. So Metta Bhavana means the cultivation of loving kindness. Okay, and I think that's something that we all could welcome in these sort of difficult times. I'm going to take a slightly different approach this evening. So it will be a guided meditation. So if this is new to you, then don't worry. I will take you through the meditation step by step, so that you will understand what's going on, hopefully from the get-go. But I'm going to take a slightly different approach, and we're going to start this evening with a very brief sort of settling in focus exercise, which should hopefully help us with the main meditation that we'll be doing a little bit later on. Okay, so so what I'd encourage you first of all to do, excuse me, frog in my throat, is just find yourself a nice comfortable position. If you've not meditated before, I always think the two key things are to balance obviously being comfortable, not being in a position where you're going to parts of your body are going to start to hurt over a period of time. So obviously it's got to be comfortable, but you need to be alert as well. So you don't want to be so comfortable that you're going to be starting to doze off, because that kind of defeats the object of the meditation in many ways. Now, obviously, if you are tired, then the best thing is to have a sleep and perhaps try again a bit later. But yeah, so in your posture, I'm on a stool at the moment, which is how I'm used to meditating. But if you're in a chair, a dining chair is often the best, or something which is a little bit firm. And try not to lean back into the chair. If you can sit with your back a little bit away from the back of the chair, create a small amount of distance, and really make connection with the sitting bones on the chair. That can really help to put you into a nice, suitable posture for meditation. If you are in a chair, make sure that your feet are flat on the floor. You need to feel the contact of your feet with the floor. That's also important. If you decide that you want to be on the floor, whether you're kneeling or on cushions, something like that. The most important thing is that it's not a position where you're going to have to, you're going to get a cramp or something like that. It's important that it's comfortable and you can sustain that for probably about 20 minutes when we get into the main meditation. Okay. Obviously, as I'm talking to you, if you need to have a bit of a jiffle round, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay. So as long as you've got yourself a nice, comfortable position, I'm going to talk you through a very short settling exercise, just really to focus you, hopefully to put some of the stresses of the day behind you and prepare yourself for meditation so that we can get more out of the main meditation that we'll be doing later on. So the first thing I'd encourage you to do is just check on that posture again before we get started. Make sure you have a nice connection with the sitting bones wherever you are. And if your feet are on the floor or your knees are on the floor, just register that contact. Just notice that contact with the floor or with your chair. Okay. And in your own time, and I will do the same, just gently close your eyes. And the first thing I would encourage you to do is just to pay a little bit of attention to your breath. The breath is something really very special because it's something which often we don't notice, but equally we can control if we choose to. It's a connection between mind and body in many ways. So without changing your breath, I really just want you to check in with what your breath is doing at the moment. Perhaps just notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest or your belly. Notice how you breathe in and breathe out. And perhaps just notice if you have any tension in your body. If you've had a busy day, perhaps focus on the out breath and imagine some of that tension gradually releasing with every out breath. As you settle and begin just gently to focus on your breath. Stay here for just a few more moments. When you're focusing on your breath like this, it's really important not to try to change the breath in any way. Some people can find themselves perhaps getting a little out of breath or even anxious sometimes when they pay attention to their breath. You are being the observer, simply watching what's going on and perhaps releasing a little bit of tension with every out breath. Now I'd like you to just pay attention to anything which is going on in your mind. What thoughts are occurring at the moment? Now don't try to make sense of them or judge them. All I'm asking you to do is just notice how your brain, how your thoughts move from one thing to the next, to the next. That's what brains do. That's what our minds do. And as you observe your train of thoughts Maybe you notice that your breath has become a little easier, a little slower. Sometimes stepping outside of ourselves and observing our breath or our thoughts can really help us to become more present in the moment. Now, what I'd like you to do is to just notice now how you're feeling. What emotions are you experiencing at this present moment of time? Now, this will be different for all of us, of course. But how are you generally feeling at the moment? And where do you associate in your body that emotion? Is it in your chest? Your belly? Whatever's happening, just pay attention to how you're feeling in this present moment. Try not to judge it. All we're doing is bringing some gentle awareness to how we're feeling at the moment. Sometimes this is described as our emotional weather. Where are we at the moment? And just for the last few moments of this settling in exercise, just become aware of yourself sitting or kneeling, and try to make a connection with yourself and how you're feeling. Just keep the focus on your emotional response to you being here, sat or kneeling, just taking a few moments to see what's going on. And maybe just for the last few moments, just bring your attention back to your breath. So in your own time, if you'd like to open your eyes, perhaps just check in how you're feeling. And one of the main purposes of that really was just to help you to connect with how you're feeling at the present moment. And it's surprising when we are talking about emotions, we often don't know what emotions we're experiencing from one moment to the next. And I think it's fair to say that some people think that emotions, our emotions, how we feel, are kind of beyond our control. They're just they're just things that happen, and we just go along with our emotional states a lot of the time. But I think it's important to recognize times that within your own life where actually your emotions have changed quite suddenly for one reason or another, but also to recognize that we can do things to affect our emotional states ourselves. And that's one of the important things about the meditation that we're going to do this evening, because I think many of us do I know myself have in the past had a tendency to dwell on kind of the negative side of life, come back from work and the first thing that I talk to my partner about is, all the things that went wrong and all the bad things that people did. And I think that is often a tendency. So actually to work on our emotions, to find ways to create positivity in our lives, is a very powerful thing, and something that not very many people actually do. We can affect our emotional states, and the more that we practice the type of meditation that we're going to do this evening, we can improve the amount of positive emotion that we experience. And I always think it's kind of like that situation where they say how you can pass a smile on. If you see somebody walking along the street and you smile, they have a tendency often to smile back. And positive emotion, the type of positive emotion we're talking about here, can be passed on. It can benefit you, but it can also benefit other people. So really, the type of meditation we're going to be doing tonight, the Metta Bhavana, is one about kindness for ourselves, developing kindness for ourselves, but also for everybody else as well. So it's known as the mindfulness of breathing. No, it's not. It's known as the Metta Bhavana. I was looking at my notes and it threw me. So it's known as the Metta Bhavana, and that means the cultivation of loving kindness. So this word metta is a word that you often hear in from sort of Buddhist terms. Metta means loving kindness, sometimes referred to as friendliness, but that's perhaps not quite strong enough for what we're trying to cultivate during the meditation. So what is metta? So metta is an emotion. It's something that we can have for ourselves and for all other living beings. And the meditation is aimed at not only for yourself but for all living beings, creating more of that positive emotion. And in a world where there's a lot of negative emotion and a lot of things for us to react to in a negative way, it really can be quite a positive and productive thing to do in our lives. So when you think about your emotional states, I mentioned before how sometimes your emotional states can change very, very quickly. The example I'm thinking of is if somebody's waiting for some exam results or for some test results, and before you get the results, it's lots of anxiety, lots of nervousness. The moment you find out whether you've passed or you've failed, it's either high emotion, really, really happy, or quite the opposite as well. So that sort of situation reminds me that our emotions can change very, very quickly in response to things happening around us. But also we can develop our emotional states. We can do things which can affect our emotions in a more positive way. And this is one of the ways in which we can do that. One of the things that this meditation is built around is the fact that as individuals, we all want to be happy. And I've often tested myself with this, thinking, well, is there anybody that actually doesn't want to be happy? Well, clearly not. That is kind of for not just humans, but for all living beings, that there's this drive to be happy. And one of the things that the meditation can really help us to do is connect with that sense within us all, that I want to be happy, you want to be happy, everybody else out there fundamentally wants to be happy. So one of the things I just want to share with you before we go into the meditation is one is a Buddhist teaching. It's very short, but it's probably one of the most famous quotes from the Buddha. It's from a book called the Dhammapada. There are many different versions available, and it really just connects to why this type of meditation, this kind of this approach to creating more positive states of mind and of our emotions is really very important. So I'll just read this to you. And it says, "Not by hatred are hatreds ever pacified here in the world. They are pacified by love. This is the eternal law. So the Dhammapada is perhaps the nearest to what the Buddha actually spoke. Okay, it's the nearest that we can get to what the Buddha actually spoke. There are lots and lots of Buddhist teachings, and I would recommend this. There are lots of Buddhist quotes out there, aren't there? If you're on Facebook or other social media, that I often see supposed Buddhist quotes popping up. But if you're quite keen to look at something which is connected to what the Buddha actually said 2,500 years ago, then the Dhammapada is something to consider. I'll read that for you again. Not by hatred are hatreds ever pacified here in the world. They are pacified by love. This is the eternal law. And why I'm talking about this is because if this is something that interests you, many people, when they read that, kind of have a connection that, well, that's kind of obvious, or I knew that already. It's like reconnecting with something that you knew previously. This sense that, creating more negativity, creating hatred for people really never achieves anything. And one of the big challenges in life is to meet hatred, is to meet negativity with positive emotion. And the outcomes for us and the people around us can be quite beneficial because of that. So we'll move on to the meditation now. And the meditation, I'll just briefly talk through the stages of the meditation if there's anybody who hasn't done it before. But don't worry if you haven't, because I will be guiding you throughout. So the Metta Bhavana comes in 5 different stages, and as I rang the bell earlier, I will ring a bell to notify the change between the different 5 stages of the meditation. So during the meditation, I'm going to ask you to bring to mind a number of different people, and in the first stage you're bringing to mind yourself. Now, however you do this is entirely up to you. People do it in many different ways. But what I want you to do is to either just be aware of yourself here and now on your stool or on your chair. In your mind, just be aware that you're here, you're sitting here, and you're going to send yourself some feelings of loving kindness. And there are all sorts of ways in which you can play around with doing this. But one way which is quite popular is imagining yourself in your mind's eye, either visualizing yourself or with awareness of yourself. Just send yourself some messages of reassurance, of kindness, and there are some traditional ones that we use that I'll introduce as we go through the meditation. So that's the first stage. The second stage is you then bring to mind a good friend. Now, the good friend shouldn't be anybody who's too close to you. So by that, I mean not a family member, not a partner, because the connection we have with those is quite different to those we have with a good friend. So perhaps somebody who's more or less around your age. So I always think the analogy I sometimes have is if you were at the airport and you saw somebody coming through those airport doors, your absolute best friend, how would you feel about that if you hadn't seen them for a long period of time? So that kind of person. Okay, so we need to connect with ourselves. We need to think of a good friend that we're going to bring to mind as well. In the third stage, what we do is we bring to mind somebody that is familiar to us, but we don't really feel anything emotionally about either way. So not a friend, but equally not somebody that we really dislike. So somebody that we perhaps pass on a regular basis. So we might see somebody in a shop or walking along the street, or it might be for somebody from work who we don't really speak to. So the third person, we sometimes refer to that as the neutral person. So we need to think of obviously ourselves. We need to think of a good friend. We need to also find for ourselves to work with a neutral person. The fourth stage, what we do is we actually turn our attention to somebody that we know but perhaps dislike, or we don't get along with. Okay, so we all have them, let's be honest. But if you can bring to mind somebody that you have some difficulty with, and we're going to work on our on creating some positivity, some metta for them as well. In the fifth stage, what we do is we bring everybody together. So all those people, ourselves, the good friend, the familiar face, and the full say the person we don't like, sometimes referred as the enemy. We bring all of those together, and this lovely positivity, this lovely metta that we've been creating, we're going to try and share that with everybody equally. But then we go a little bit further and we extend that out to the people in your street, the people in your town, and eventually what we do is we try and share that positive emotion with all living beings. Okay. So if I appreciate I've gone through that a little bit quickly, but if there's any questions, if there's something you really don't know what I'm talking about, you can send me a message there on the chat, because we will be starting the meditation quite soon. So 5 stages, 5 bells, and I'll guide you through the different stages of the meditation. Okay. So if you would like to just check in again with your posture, make sure you're sitting nice and comfortably, but not so comfortable that you start to go to sleep. And we will just start by closing our eyes. One thing I should mention as well is if you, like me, have long arms, you might want to perhaps put a cushion on your lap just to support your hands as you go through the meditation, can just create a bit more comfort. Okay. So in your own time, just allowing the eyes to close. Just reminding ourselves that this meditation is working with our emotions and working with creating positive emotions, positivity, loving kindness for ourselves and for other people. So just take a moment to notice what's happening with your feelings, with your emotions at the moment. Just try to connect with that sensation. And whatever's there, we will work with it. The Metta Bhavana. So in the first stage of the meditation, just be aware of yourself sitting in your meditation posture. Be aware of your body. Be aware of yourself being here and now. If at any time during the meditation your mind wanders to thinking about other things, that's okay. That can happen. But just gently bring your thoughts back to the purpose of the meditation. So being aware of yourself, bringing yourself to mind. Just notice any response, any emotional response to that awareness of yourself. And being aware of yourself, see if you can send yourself a sense of loving kindness, of friendliness. You may choose to tell yourself, send yourself messages to reinforce this. Perhaps you may want to say to yourself, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. For many of us, we don't always remind ourselves or connect with the fact that we care about ourselves. We care about our well-being and our happiness. So just remind yourself of that. And send yourself some kindness, some kind thoughts. Perhaps once again using the phrase, may I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. And just notice what happens when you allow yourself to send metta, to send loving kindness to yourself. And if you're continuing to use the phrases rather than repeating them in a mechanical or repetitive way, really try to connect with how you say them with feeling to yourself. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. Alternatively, you may wish to perhaps repeat your name to yourself in a kind and reassuring way as you send yourself loving kindness. Being aware of yourself here and now. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. So keeping your eyes closed, we're now moving on to the second stage, where I ask you to bring to mind a good friend. Either imagine them being here with you now, in the same room, or perhaps try to picture them in your mind's eye. It can sometimes be helpful in this stage as well to bring to mind a good time that you've shared together, and just notice how that makes you feel. Like you, your friend also wants to be happy. So connect with your friend. Create that kindness, that positive emotion, that friendliness. And give it to them. Perhaps with the words, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. If it helps, maybe say your friend's name. And in your mind, wish them well. Whatever level of warmth or kindness, whatever level of metta you're connecting with, to see if you can make that even greater as you bring to mind your friend. And wish them well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. If at any time your mind wanders elsewhere, as soon as you notice that happening, just bring your attention back to your friend. And continue to wish them well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. Moving into the third stage of the meditation, we allow our friend to move aside for the moment as we bring to mind somebody we recognize, somebody we see perhaps on a regular basis, but who we neither feel positive or negative emotions towards. This stage of the practice can sometimes be a little difficult because it's hard sometimes to connect with people we don't have strong feelings for. whoever you choose, keep them in your mind's eye for the next few moments, or imagine them here in the same room as you, in your presence. This person too wants to live a happy life. And even though you perhaps don't notice them too often, they have many of the wishes and desires that you have and your good friend has. So keeping them in mind, choose to send them some loving kindness. Perhaps imagine yourself telling them with sincerity, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. And just notice how that makes you feel, and allow that positivity, that sense of well-wishing, if possible, to grow. Keeping this person in mind, continue to send them thoughts and wishes of loving kindness. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. We encounter many people in our daily lives, but many of them pass us by almost unnoticed. But just notice what can happen as you focus on the familiar person you've brought to mind, and you begin to wish them well. Once again, may you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And as your familiar face, your neutral person, moves aside, bring to mind what is referred to as the enemy, somebody who you perhaps don't get along with that well. Perhaps they do things that you don't like, or perhaps you don't know why you have difficulty with this person. But for now, we're going to imagine that they are here with us, in our presence, or maybe we picture them in our mind. And in a similar way, wish this person well. Imagine yourself sending them goodwill. Perhaps once again use the phrases, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. Even though this is a person that you may have difficulty with, or perhaps don't associate with in some ways, or you find them difficult to understand, remember that they too also wish to be happy. Try to allow that same sense of metta, of loving kindness, of well-wishing, to spill over and radiate out to this person. And say to them, perhaps with the phrases, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. And moving now into our final stage of the practice, once again become aware of yourself here and now, but also bring to mind your good friend, your familiar face or neutral person, and the person you have difficulty with. Imagine being here and now with those other three people. And in the same way as we wished them all well individually, now wish them all well equally. And with them all there in your mind's eye, or imagining them in your presence, send out that sense of well-wishing, perhaps with the phrases, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be free from suffering. And as you share that sense of loving kindness, of well-wishing, equally amongst yourself, your friend, your neutral person, your enemy, have a sense of that metta, that loving kindness, extending even further as you bring to mind other people in your building, people in the street outside, in the surrounding streets. As you become aware of all these living beings around you, increase your sense of metta, of well-wishing, as you recognize that all these beings wish to be happy like you. Wish them well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And extend your metta even further to your town or city. Extend your well-wishing beyond to other towns, to the rest of your country, to other countries, to people and living beings across the entire world, who all, like you, wish to be happy. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And take your sense of well-wishing as far as it can possibly go, as you wish all living beings well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. And in your own time, if you'd like to gently open your eyes and take a moment. Thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you found the meditation helpful, useful, enjoyable. And we would very much like to see you here again. Anybody is welcome to join us for these drop-in meditations. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we will be making some changes, but we will be continuing them. So do look out for those. We'll be doing them in perhaps slightly different formats in the future. But we're very, very pleased to have been able to continue these drop-in meditations during the lockdown. I'm also delighted to see that we've had a message from somebody who's been joining us from Nagpur in India, which is a place I visited myself a couple of years ago. So Jai Bim, and wonderful to have you here. A final word before we go. So Nottingham Buddhist Centre has been closed now for 12 weeks. And if you've done these talks before, if you've listened to the meditations before, you'll be aware that we do run the centre on your generosity. Unfortunately, during the lockdown period, because we have no classes, we have nobody hiring our rooms. Unfortunately, that does mean that we have a shortfall of about £1,500 each month. So I ask you that if you are able to donate to the centre and continue the work that Nottingham Buddhist Centre does, we would be extremely grateful. I would be extremely grateful if you could make a donation, however small. Everything really, really helps. Many people benefit from Nottingham Buddhist Centre and have over the many years that the centre has been opened, and we want to continue that work as much as we possibly can. I certainly have benefited in the number of years that I've been part of Nottingham Buddhist Centre, and that makes me want to share that more and more with other people, because it's in these difficult times, I think it's even more important. So if you can donate, that would be wonderful. There is an option to donate in the Facebook, on our Facebook page, or alternatively, you can go to Nottingham Buddhist Centre website, and there are options there to donate as well. Obviously, if you can't donate, that is also absolutely fine. We appreciate that these are difficult times for many people, and having your presence here is extremely important, and I'm very grateful for that. But if you can donate, then we would very, very much appreciate it. So that brings this evening to a close. And if there are any comments, I will hang around for a few moments. But thank you for joining me, and I wish you well, and hope you have a good week, and hope to see you on here again at some point in the future. Take care. Okay, as we have no comments, I will wish you all well, and we'll end the evening there. Take care.